more robust ways of pursuing the more egregious violations of human rights that are uncovered by the UN's Universal Periodic Review. And what I'm absolutely certain of is that the Ahmadiyya Muslim community could play a key role in that process and in discussing the ways in which the UN could move forward.
Our next speaker is Ed Davey, MP, who is the MP for Kingston and Surbiton, and he's also currently serving as Minister for Employment Relations. Ed Davey, MP.
Your Holiness, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. Can I pay tribute to the Ahmadi community for the way it has shown great leadership across the world in championing the cause of peace through peace symposiums and the teachings of your community. Challenging intolerance is about challenging the intolerance in the hearts and minds of men and women across the world. And religious teachings are in many ways best placed to challenge that intolerance. Your motto, love for all, hatred for none, is inspiring to many. As a Christian, the teaching I take, love thy neighbour as thyself, I believe reflects the underlying reality in your teachings. As we think of challenging intolerance at home and abroad, we know we have a struggle. Abroad, we do see conflict and diversity between peoples. We often reach for standards and guiding stars to try to help us tackle these different these diversities and these divisions. I, as a Liberal Democrat, often think about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights as a key guiding star to how we should approach these different issues. Sometimes we hear that cultural relativism, the differences between different cultures and religions, means that these types of high notions are not acceptable. But I believe we should challenge that. And I believe that if we applied those sorts of ideas, we would see your community, whether it's in Indonesia or Pakistan or elsewhere, not suffering the intolerance that it sees. And I think we wouldn't see the Christian community in a number of countries, for example, Iran, seeing the intolerance that it suffers. So I think internationally we have to struggle to get the right guiding stars and the right guiding moral principles. At home, yes, I believe we are a tolerant nation, but we all know that there is intolerance in our society here in Britain too. From the playground to bullying, to the workplace and harassment, we see intolerance sometimes in our ordinary lives. In the political sphere, we see it in the far right, and we do also see it in the attitude to immigrants and asylum seekers, as Siobhan spoke so eloquently about. And I know your community also suffers intolerance, because I think even within the religions here in Britain, we see different parts of the same religion being intolerant to each other. And we need to at least face up to that and make sure that governments and community leaders are prepared to speak out on that. So yes, we do have challenges to address intolerance. But if I may finish on a lighter note, I am proud to be serving in a coalition government where two parties of two different values, two different manifestos of two different leaders have come together to work in the national interest. And the reason I mention this is that I've had my prejudice about my coalition partners challenged. I am proud to work with Conservative colleagues for the interest of our country, even if that means making difficult decisions. And I do believe the experience shows that actually if you can put aside your differences and look what unites you, you can serve the common good far more effectively. And I think the coalition government, I believe, shows Maybe we're not at war before, but bringing together and working together for the mutual benefit can be a very, very powerful force. Thank you.
Our next guest is Maqsood Ahmed, OBE. Maqsood is a senior government advisor on faith matters and is representing Andrew Stunnell MP, the Minister for Communities. Maqsood Ahmed.
Your Holiness, Hazur, my lords, ladies, Member of Parliament, ministers, my friends, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. Normally this stage is left for the ministers and VVIP, but I've been charged to deliver a message from Andrew Stunnell MP, and I quote, Your Holiness, I'm grateful for your kind invitation to the Peace Symposium due to the heavy diary and constituency commitment in this month. I'm afraid neither Grand Shap nor I will be able to participate on these occasions. The government welcomes the values and contribution faith communities make in the United Kingdom, including of the Ahmadiyya Muslim communities. I commend the work of Ahmadiyya Muslim Association UK and commitment to working with the people of all faith and no faith, promoting tolerance, respect, and sports for the charities cause. Huzur, we in the government, you have many friends within the government and opposition, and many of us humble civil servant. We are determined to deal with any incident where the small minorities within the Muslim community are persecuted or demonized. Our message, it is that the Ahmadiyya Muslim community has taken a step ahead and being a role model in the civic participation in our society, and we value very much and the work of the Siobhan, your work on the parliamentary committee, and certainly the prejudice and the bigotry of certain community need to be challenged, and all community need to be respected, and it is a self-definition how they want to call themselves and how they want to practice, and we fully endorse the work of your charity, particularly that you and your Jamaat is not asking for funding, you are equally reciprocating to the local society. Thank you very much for inviting me, sir.
We are now delighted to welcome our next speaker, the Right Honourable Dominic Grieve, QC MP. Dominic is the MP for Beaconsfield and a long-standing friend of the community, and following the last general election, he was appointed as the Attorney General for the UK. The Right Honourable Dominic Grieve, MP.
Good evening and Assalamu alaikum. Your Holiness, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure once again to be present at one of your peace symposiums, something that I've enjoyed attending on a number of years in the past. When we come to consider the issue of tolerance, we have to recognise that the last year, as we look around the world, has provided many examples of intolerance. Intolerance affecting the Ahmadiyya community, intolerance affecting Christians in Pakistan and in other places in the Middle East. Examples of inhumane behaviour by one group against another or by the state against their own citizens. It's a constant challenge, and indeed as we look at the Middle East at the moment, from one end to the other, one can see waves of protest as people demand individual rights and defy the state which they see suppressing them. How can we, from this country, influence the outcomes of those debates so as to emphasise the rights of the individuals, their human rights and their civic rights, and also avoid the descent into chaos that can so often be attendant when violence breaks out? It's a great challenge for us in this country. And of course, although we may enjoy priding ourselves on our own tolerance, The simple fact of the matter is that we only got where we are today through a lot of polemical argument, and indeed, if one looks back over a 500-year period, persecution, outbreaks of violence, and often, I suspect, the requirement of individuals to exercise a